Welcome to this first session in the afternoon. It is actually a very special session for me, but more on that later. Our topic is all your Wi-Fi are belong to us, which is a sort of bad pun meanwhile. I've been told it's come to its age. Actually, depending on how you look at it, it should be the other way around anyway, because it is all our Wi-Fi are belong to you. You just came to this place and pretty much successfully, I heard, have been using eduroam just by walking in and doing it. So this is about your network, basically. If you're using eduroam right now, that's fine. We're glad you do. If you have problems, please tell me. I've heard some people have problems, so okay, come along. Anyway, we are always trying to make things easier to use. And believe it or not, we realize that eduroam is never going to be your cure-all for all your connectivity needs. We sort of are limited to campuses. And this session here is about making things better in eduroam, but also looking at what can there be to supplement eduroam and what happens beyond the campus. So our first talk is about improving the user-facing end, how to make configuring your devices easier. And that's going to be held by Tomasz Wolniewicz. He is the director of the ICT Center in the Nicolaus Copernicus University in Toruń in Poland. And seen on a wider scale, he is Mr. Eduroam in Poland. And he's one of the big contributors of a giant activity in eduroam R&D, which is called the Eduroam Configuration Assistant Tool, or in short, eduroam CAT. So, Tomasz will tell us all about it.
Okay, so the reason of this, the purpose of this talk is to show you what we've been doing on eduroam, trying to make it easier, and tell you what it is that we call eduroam CAT. And it is not about extending the user community to cats, as some people might try to guess. What we are trying to do is to make eduroam even easier, even simpler to use. I suppose using eduroam is simple enough. Yes, you just don't do anything about if you are already using eduroam, it normally just works. However, there is this first step that some people find difficult, and that's configuring things for eduroam, or actually, you could say configuring a .1x network, because there's nothing special in a way about eduroam. But being a central activity like eduroam, we can do something about helping our users and to do this first important step. So we want to simplify eduroam installation by supplying fully automated installers for make client platforms. But we want to minimize the end user interaction with the system, pushing the entire configuration burden onto local eduroam administrators, giving them the task of configuring things so that the users then won't have anything to do except for maybe typing in their username and password. Since we ask the local sites to do some work, we also want to preserve their identity, you could say, by making it possible to brand the installer in some cases with things like local logos, names of the institution, or even terms of use that they might want to show to their users. It is also possible that instead of just joining the central site and downloading installers from there, users might prefer downloading things from their home site. So we also support this model of operation if somebody really wants that. So it is possible for the admins to download the pre-configured installers in a bunch, let's say, and then redistribute it from their own site. There are lots and lots of pre-configuration capabilities, support for multiple user groups or profiles as we call them. The CAT is fully internationalized, supports many languages already, and of course we are very keen on adding new ones. So if anybody wants to help us do some translations, just please let us know and we will add the next language. Installers, whenever it's necessary, are digitally signed. There are also some extra tools for administrators which you can consider as a bonus for using CAT. It supports both large, well, normal, let's say, screen and small screen devices as well, and I will try to show that later. The user experience is supposed to be easy, yes, that's the main goal. So just connect to the central site, select your home institution. Using Disco Juice, the whole thing is made even simpler and nicer because Disco Juice has all these magic built into it, which essentially magically pops up user's institution on the top of the list, and so it doesn't really need to scroll down and look for it. Then, if necessary, select a user group, select your device or operating system, download the installer, fire it up, and then, in most cases, you input your credentials, and that's it. Yes. So there is no fuss, but full security. These two things don't usually pair very easily, yes, because if a connection is easy, then usually the security of the connection is not that great. In this case, the security is given by the signature on the installer, but then the installer will install all server certificates, marked trusted server certificates, marked trusted server names, and so on. And it will also set anonymous outer identity support if that's configured by the administrator. CAT is a development effort within Jerry 3T1, which is led by Stefan. It is partially based on what we have previously done in Poland. The main developers so far are Stefan and myself. We have some additional feature developers and a team of translators, which we hope to expand. There is a SVN repository. There is a user mailing list to which we would like to welcome everybody. And you can actually give it a try. If you go to cat-test.eduroam.org, you can try the current test version. Currently, it is Alpha 3, we hope to go for a Beta 1 soon. The current version uses a simple Google-based authentication. This will be expanded, of course, but we just wanted to start with something, so that's what it is. Now, you can configure your installers, download and test how they work. And, of course, there is a request. There's so many platforms supported now. We would like to do more. If you know how to do them, please contact us and help us to do more. So I will now try to click you through CAT and show how it actually works. I will pretend it's a live demo. However, it is not a live demo because it would just go too slowly, I'm afraid. So the mouse clicks are simulated, but I will try to click the mouse in the right places. So this is more or less the experience that you would get when you try. But please do try by yourself and see how it works. So let's start with the user experience. So user will get a Disco Juice screen to pick up his institution. Hopefully it should be on his list. And then there is this screen of choice. In this particular, there are some user groups that the user needs to find himself in. As I mentioned, the interface is internationalized, so you could switch to another language, Polish in this case, and we can go back to English. And then if the user clicks a user group, then he gets the list of devices. for which the installers are available. So as you can see, we have Windows, except in this case XP is not supported. I will mention this in a moment. There is Apple Lion plus iOS devices. There is also Linux to be here pretty soon, but in this Alpha 3 version it hasn't been there yet. This list can actually change if you go to another user group. This time you also have Windows XP. That's because it may be that for different user groups you support different kind of authentication. And in fact, for Windows XP right now we only support ePTTLS. Therefore, if this user group supports that, then this installer will be available. Okay, let's try to look at another institution. The difference between these two is that this institution only has a single user group, which probably is the most common example. And then the user doesn't have to pick the user group. It is, he just gets a list of all available installers. And what do the installers look like? This is the front screen of the Windows installer. It is I'm showing two of them to show the difference. This particular institution has uploaded a logo, so it is shown on the installer front page. This one hasn't. Also, you can see that there are names of the institutions because these installers are pre-configured, therefore they only work for a particular institution. So, so this is being shown on this screen and also on another one. There are links to customized help desk and so on. There is actually this screen also shows that we have a bug, and if you like, you can find out what it is. This screen here shows the terms of use. This is something you can configure but don't have to. But if you like your users to agree to something, at least pretend they have read what you have written to them, yes, that they know how eduroam works and so on, then there is a possibility of showing this screen and the user has to click accept before going on. This screen down here shows that it is an extra warning that this will only work for this particular institution and this particular user group. In this case, where we have multiple user groups, this is also shown. Now, a quick listing how it looks on a small device, iPhone in this case. So the interface is customized to a different look. And if you just go through it, you pick your country, you pick your institution, and then you are presented with the download screen, so you have the listing of these devices, and then you choose one, you have the link to download the actual installer. If you do this on, in this case, an Apple iOS mobile profile, it will immediately fire up, and so this is the information. The profile is signed. It is signed by my university, and this is, I need to mention this because we are getting lots and lots of questions about it, saying that we don't want our installers to be signed by some awkward university in Poland. You won't. This is just something that we do now for this test setup, but we will have a, let's say, proper eduroam-like name for the signing certificate. So the user just needs to put in username and password, and when he's done, the profile gets installed, and these are the additional information that you can take a look. So this is the user experience, yes? So I hope you will agree that it's nice and easy. And let's go through the not so nice and easy experience of configuring thing. It is actually very nice, but it is not so easy. So let's start with looking at an institution that has already been configured. So you can see this institution has uploaded a logo, it has uploaded 2 terms of use files. This is also something that we support. Essentially any piece of information that you put in to CAT can be internationalized. So you can put as many languages as you like. You, of course, have a default language, which normally, I suppose, should be English. But then you can support many languages, including the names of your institution and so on. So here there are 2 terms of use files. And there are some more things. This institution has defined, of course, the certificate file, which for its radio servers, and the trusted radio server names, and it has also defined locations. Locations are there to help Disco Jews to pick up the correct institution based on geolocation. So that's the only reason why they are, but this is why they are here. But this is quite useful, and you can edit things that you already have by clicking this button. I will show this in a moment. This is the profile information. As you can see, you can also edit a profile or user group, whatever you like to call it. We call it profiles. You can edit each of them. So to show you how the editing of the IDP works, well, you can do locations, which I'm not going to show here. You can add and delete things. Delete by clicking those minus buttons. You can add by adding new options. We don't have a full-fledged edit for most cases. You just delete them and add a new one. If you edit a profile, on the top of the editing profile screen, you see things that you have already defined on the global scale. So on the institutional level, you can override just about anything on the profile level, but in most cases you don't have to do that. So these global things are shown on the top of the screen, and in the bottom you can do things special to this profile. The really important piece of the profile definition is the supported EAP type list. So you do this by just pulling EAP types from the red box to the green box, and when you then save things, they will be there. They will be in the order of preference, as you can see. What's the point of having multiple ones? If you have a device which can only support a given EAP profile, like for Windows XP, at this moment we support just the TTLS thing, then CAT can pick out the best EAP method for a given device. If you give it more possibilities, then it has more chance to actually show something. A very quick course through CAT configuration in a minimal setup. So single user group, PEEP as the only EAP method, one extra language. This screen may change, well, it will change in the future, but that's how it is now. If you go there, you just fill in things, put the name, the country, and the name of the administrator. You click go, and then you need to go to your mailbox to see that you have been given a ticket that you paste here, or just click a link that's there as well. And then you go into the institution setup screen. It has lots and lots of information. If you read through it, I'm sure there will be absolutely no problems reading what, not reading, putting things in and understanding what we expect of you. So you can add a new option like another institution name. You can add this location. Actually, in most cases, in the future, you will if you put in a meaningful name of your institution, you will already get the location by Google geolocation stuff. But what you can also do is add, put in a name, or use just locate me button here. If you put in a name and do find address, then Google will pick up the location. You could, in principle, move this marker to another place, but this is not really necessary because for user experience, only a very rough approximation of the location is important, so you can just leave it, you can leave it there. Then you add some more stuff like support email and certificate files and so on. And then you click continue, this is the confirmation of what has been done. Continue to the profile definition. There's not really much to be done here. Since there's only going to be one profile, you don't even have to give this profile a name. The automatic one that's supplied by the system will be just fine. What you could do is add a realm, because that's for anonymous outer identity support, for some devices. So it makes sense to add this. And then that's essentially it, except that you need to put in the EAP information. So you would, I can't simulate it here, but it's you would pull PEEP into this box, and it would then appear here, and you just save data, and that's it. And then you can go back to the main screen, see how things look, what you have put in. There is a confirmation that all looks well, and the user will get this new institution on the list. If he picks Iceland, then it will be on the list, and that's what it looks like. Yes, we're not supporting XP here because we're not supporting TTLS because we only said we support PEEP. Yes, so but maybe we change our minds, so let's add TTLS PAP to this. This is simple, just by editing our profile. We go there, we pull TTLS PAP into this box here, and when it appears there, we just save the profile, and here it is. Our profile now supports both PEEP and TTLS. And everything is fine. And if the user now goes back to this institution, he will get a full list of devices. There are some extra things that you can do. You can do device-specific information for the user. So, for instance, we support TTLS by adding secure W2 in the GPL version, installing it for the user. So maybe we should inform the user that this is what we are going to do. So we can do a Windows XP extra option by clicking it here. We will put in a message that this installer will also include secure W2 installer. We save this. And when the user now clicks Windows XP, then this extra field will appear telling him what we have just put in. But maybe we don't actually want XP users to use cat at all. Maybe we have a better option at home, let's say. So maybe we want to redirect all our users directly to our own home site. We can do this as well by adding a redirection target. We just put a URL, save it. The white here shows that this particular device is being redirected, and then if the user clicks that, then gets the message that rather than getting something out of cat, he will be redirected to a local website as configured by the local administrator. What I've been showing up to the moment was just I was doing everything correctly, yes, not forgetting important things and so on, but you might forget something, and if you do forget something really important, then the system will show some notification, like in this case, that the certificate file has not been uploaded, so we can't really make an installer for it, so the user would see just that. why is it that we still have one installer? Because we have previously done a redirect for this particular case, so this will still work because we assume that the local support will work, but none of the others will. If we had all of them in gray, we just wouldn't show this institution at all because we don't want to have the user clicking, OK, my institution is here, and then see, sorry, we can't do anything about it. So this institution then wouldn't be just shown on the list. And a very quick peek into the near future. I will not read through this list. I will just show you some new things. First of all, the installers are now grouped per vendor. And there is an extra button here. When this is clicked, you will see an installation message. What will happen when you download this stuff, what it will do to your system, and so on and so on. And of course, like everything else, it is in multiple languages, yes, so you can. Another nice thing is that within the administrator interface, you can now see download links directly to profiles. So if you pick this, this QR code, print it on your material, and give it to all your students, and all they need to do is just scan it, and they will go directly to the correct page in CAT, rather than clicking through the institution and so on. So that's essentially it, except for a, yes, very quick demo, which I still have time for. Which is one new thing. Let's see here. This is an extra tool which allows you to check that your realm on eduroam is actually working correctly. So you just choose your realm. Normally, you could just pick it up and check this realm from this page, but you can check just any realm you like. And then you go to this checking, and it does this in 2 steps. First, it goes through the static infrastructure, which is not so interesting for us, as we are mostly for the dynamic things, for the dynamic connections, which I don't have time to explain. But there are quite a number of interesting TLS tests performed. You can see the results. You can see lots of additional information if you click somewhere here. Yes, what has been tested, what certificates have been presented, what are the results, and what was expected, etc., etc. But this is a sort of bit advanced thing that we hope for the future for the dynamic peer discovery in eduroam.
Wow, thanks for this breathtakingly fast course through eduroam CAT. So are there any questions for Tomasz?
Hello, good evening. Thomas, do you have any planning to put this tool federated, or make any sense to do this?
You mean the login to the administration page?
No, the student page, the user. Before he, because you don't need to choose the organization, the institution.
Yes, but there is actually no reason for authentication. Because the user just needs to choose the institution. There is no point of logging into the institution because there is no user-specific stuff on that. So it would be just an, I mean, we could do it, but it would not add anything to the functionality.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other? Yes. Please wait a few seconds for the mic.
There is a way to participate to the translation in other language?
Yes, just send a note either to me or to Stefan, or join the CAT users group, and yes, we will be more than happy.
Okay, thanks.
if I may add the technical details, this is Unix get text as it worked for 20 years. So you get a PO file and you can translate. Any more questions? Okay, then thanks a lot for these questions. I'm glad it worked. So let's thank Tomasz again. Okay, yeah, our next talk also is about added value for users. At least if they have a smartphone. Our next speakers are two, actually. It's Mark O'Leary from Janet UK. He is heavily involved in eduroam, but he is also product manager for the mobile connectivity feasibility analysis in Gen 3. And the second speaker is Tim Chown from the Uni of Southampton. He is actually one of the fathers of eduroam. He made the first international roaming login actually work. So these are really two eduroam heavyweights, and they have been working quite a lot. They have two things to show to us. One is about a new favorite app for your favorite gadgets, and the second one is a set of questions for us. So I'm looking forward to see what they have to present. So we will start with Mark. Mark, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Stefan. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm a bit of a fraud up here in front of you today because I'm really only introducing the interesting issues that Tim wants to discuss with you. But I'm taking the opportunity to give you a bit of the background to lead into his questions. And I'm also going to cheekily sneak in a few questions and invitations to yourself while I have the opportunity. So I won't hold you up too long, I hope. My agenda then is to tell you about a problem we see with eduroam. Eduroam is a great service. Unfortunately for this talk, I'm going to concentrate on something that isn't so great about it, and perhaps present a partial solution that at Janet, in collaboration with the University of Southampton, we've put together and we're very pleased to be sharing with you. We've delivered this solution for iOS. We are today announcing that we've broadened our platform base out to Android, and I'll say a little more about that. Tell you what that new platform brings to this companion app, and then, as I say, invite you to perhaps participate with us a little. So what's the problem I've referred to? I think, and this is perhaps debatable, that a lot of our effort in the decade-long development of eduroam, this fantastic flagship service, we've concentrated from the sort of central view of eduroam, pushing it out to participating organizations. We've developed a lot of tools, a lot of support mechanisms, forums, task forces, to expand that footprint by bringing in organizations and getting their radius servers configured and tested and monitored. Maybe not so much of our work has gone directly to the end business user who actually makes use of this service. And I'd encourage all of you, when you get a quiet moment, do a Twitter search on eduroam as a hashtag. See what sort of conversations are happening out there in user land. You'll see an awful lot of praise for the service. You will also see an awful lot of frustration. And those frustrations are around, what is this eduroam? I've never heard of it. Are we doing the communications properly? Where can I find it? That perhaps is something we're trying to contribute to and we'll be talking about here. How do I configure my device? You've just heard an elegant response to that presented in the CAT tool, but we're 10 years into the service and the CAT tool is in Alpha 3. Have we been supporting the users enough to this point? And then the perennial question, which I have to confess to being responsible for tweeting today at this conference, why isn't it working? So eduroam is brilliant, but also occasionally frustrating. At Janet, we focused in on one small part of the problem that we felt we could get some leverage against. Where is eduroam at? Where can I benefit from this service? We're assuming a user who is aware that they can get connectivity through eduroam, that perhaps they've used the CAT tool and they have a device that's ready for it, but they're planning a trip to Iceland and need to know what venues in the city centre will offer them this wonderful free Wi-Fi that they can make use of. And we had a few ways in to solving this problem. We could assume that a very large part of our target audience would have a highly capable device with them, namely the smartphone, that would manage their connectivity, give them readable notes and configurations, give them a nice display UI to help them find things with maps. Perfect platform, always present with the user in their pocket, in their bag. We also had a development partner. Janet doesn't directly have coding expertise, but we do enjoy very strong links with our user community out there, and specifically a lot of the CS courses that are run at various Janet community institutions. And that's a ready pool of skilled student talent that at various points in their courses are looking for somebody to play customer with them as part of their studies, someone to give them a demanding spec and to feed back on their development activities and give them a goal. And finally, when we're talking smartphones, we have a mechanism to actually spread what we develop out in a very easy way. We don't have to develop a delivery mechanism or an advertising mechanism or even a sales channel. There's an app store mechanism. Whatever we contribute, we can put out there internationally in one hit, and everyone can get at it. So overall, as it says on the slide, the problem we want to solve is getting users from you are here to eduroam is over there, and hooking the two together. We've really done this on the cheap, not to belittle the Southampton students at all, but we didn't have real budget to put against this. But as I've said, there is this pool of student development. You're rolling the dice slightly against the quality of code you get back. We have been extremely fortunate to have been assigned very competent students, which after a quick code review of what they've delivered to us in their projects, we've considered these to be essentially production ready. We approached the projects as proof of concept. We weren't looking to be able to go to launch. This was seeing, could we put something together? Will it give the sort of user experience we're looking for? Use this as a basis to go out to a coding house. We've been fortunate to be able to short circuit that process and go straight into providing something to yourselves. So, and as part of that process, we've also contributed something back to the university and to the student studies. We hopefully have been an interactive partner in their sort of learning experience of how you deal with a technical customer, how you present your conclusions to them, how you stand up against their arguments when they're saying put these 5 features in and you've only got time to do 3. We were quite good at being demanding customers, and we found the students quite good at telling us when we were being too demanding. We got a lot of that for free. Our participation in the course was what was our input to this. We found that the final deliverables, perhaps there were little bits of polish we might ask for, and at Southampton there's a mechanism where the students are paid at demonstrator rates to do a certain amount of work outside their course hours to a maximum limit that doesn't interfere with their studies. And we were able to purchase a couple of weeks of that effort in order to just finish off what we were looking for from this application. So all in all, across these 2 apps, Janet's total expenditure is under £2,000. And I think we've got a lot back for that money. And I would encourage all of your MRENs to explore with your own academic communities what they can give to you and what you can give to them in this sense as well. And I think that's something I've said before at TNC. So about a year ago, where we came in with this, we were working on an eduroam companion app for iOS, the Apple platform. And I was able to do a demo for those of you that were on TNC last time. It took us a long time to get from a demoable product to actually getting it out through the Apple Store and available. Some of the comms between this app and the back-end server rely on SSL encryption. And when you submit your app to the Apple App Store, they assess the code before publishing it and said, you're using military-grade encryption here. We will be storing this on servers in America, so you need a license for weapons export from America to the rest of the world in order to distribute this app. That's quite a tricky process. There's an escape clause. If you pay Apple to do an in-depth code review, they can determine just how military this military hardware is. And yes, we paid that small amount, and it turns out that we weren't out to topple smaller South American countries. We were, in fact, helping eduroam users, or trying to. So finally, late in December, we got this app out on the App Store. Without even any real promotion, it was immediately sort of latched onto by various communities. As of last week, the last time I checked the stats, we'd had 3,400 downloads, I believe. So it's taken off really well, beyond our expectations for the sort of steepness of the initial curve. I hope all of you will be our agents in going out there and increasing that download rate. Tell anyone you know that uses eduroam and has an Apple device. I won't go into depth in the features. It's basically a map-based system that navigates you from where you happen to be to where any eduroam presence is, either after international travel or where's the nearest one within 5 kilometers or whatever. Uses the onboard navigation capabilities and gets you to where you need to go. What we're announcing now is a very similar looking product is now available on Android, native to the Android system. Big difference between Android and Apple is Apple apps run in a sandbox. They have very limited access to drivers and hardware information. That's not quite so much the case on Android, so the app's reporting capabilities can now access information like signal strength, so we're able to demonstrate to include features like this rather intriguing heat map version. So as more user data is reported from the app that it's logging what's going on, we can build up heat maps over all of Europe showing where eduroam coverage is available. To accommodate these deeper features, we've had to change the back-end server slightly. We've also integrated social networking, largely as it's what you do with apps these days, but we think it's quite important that you can say, I'm using eduroam at such and such a location, and you can do that from within the app. Get more of a buzz out there around use of eduroam. So, as I say, over 3,000 downloads. Side effect we didn't expect, people seeing the app and then saying, why are my local APs not on there? We've found a number of other regions have now started submitting to Miro their access point location data. So we're expanding the database, which in turn expands the capability of the app, driven by user demand. And my final comment is, we want this to be a fully internationalized platform, just as the CAT is, and I would call on all of you for help. We've actually registered the project on Transifex, which is an open source support tool that helps manage this process. So please go and visit that page if you'd like to contribute a translation. So I've overrun, unsurprisingly, and I'll now hand over to Tim Choan.
Is this? Oh, yeah, that's working just fine. We'll maybe take the questions at the end, but that's in the pipeline. The problem is what you can actually report from an iPhone device as against what you can report from from an Android device. So, Mark's talked very well about the applications that have been developed so far. And I think that one of the key lessons to take from this is that if we can get the applications out to the users, then we can certainly help the real users of eduroam actually contribute to make eduroam a better place, whether that's going out there and mapping out eduroam more accurately, because it's them that's contributing the more accurate data points as to where eduroam coverage exists, or whether that's expanding social networking use so that there's more information getting out in various social networks about the use of eduroam. So there's a couple of directions that we can certainly attack here: the social networking side and improving the accuracy of the eduroam coverage data. One of the things Mark didn't say, but it's kind of implied here, is that the apps are taking the locations that they're reporting the eduroam coverage as being from a small number of sources, one of them being a file available from the eduroam site, a KML file that gives you a load of locations of where eduroam coverage is. But for a lot of sites, that's just one point. And originally for Southampton, that one point was a sort of a center of gravity of our university, and actually that one point didn't have any eduroam coverage. It was right in the middle of a residential area that had nothing, but we've actually got 6 sites. And someone coming to Southampton would look at the map and not have any idea where eduroam really actually was. So the idea is you go out, use the app to tag the points, contribute them, and then other people visiting get a much better idea of where the coverage is. And that was one of the nice new things of the Android app, is that there's a mode with the Android app where you just push a button and it will, as you walk around, it will contribute those points. You don't actually have to do anything. It just sends a new point as you move around. So that was quite nice. So one of the questions we have with that is that we now have potentially thousands of users out there with this app contributing points. At the moment, they're all sending these points to the mothership in Janet HQ somewhere. So no matter where you are in Europe submitting these points, all these bits of data are being gathered by Janet. And that may be fine for the current situation where we're just bootstrapping this, but longer term, what do we want to do? Should we aim for some central point of collection of all this data managed by eduroam HQ rather than Janet HQ? Should we have each NREN run some server where they collate the data for the users from their communities? And if we do that, well, what happens if I go to Holland? Do I contribute my points to the Dutch server, or should I send them back to my own Janet HQ? So I think there's an interesting question here. Once we start getting thousands of users contributing this information, where do they contribute it to? Is it a distributed model we want, or is there going to be some single service that the eduroam community have supported somehow? So that's the first question. Obviously, that then implies that if all that information is submitted somewhere, that when you move around with your app, as new points get submitted, you need to download those. Luckily, that doesn't take too long because the app is smart enough to just download the points based on your current location, or you can set a location and view the points around that. So if I'm going to visit Iceland, I can bring up the map, look at Iceland, and see where the coverage is, for example. So you don't download every point for the world when you're in a certain location. But the question then is, when I download that data, there's all these user-contributed points that we've gathered from the app, but there's also these official locations of eduroam from the file on the eduroam site, the KML file. How do we actually merge these two sources of data? At the moment, the app can display both, but we probably want to be in a situation where what we're doing by having this app is almost shaming the owners of the eduroam sites around the UK, Europe, and the rest of the world to actually improve the information that they provide about their eduroam service that they've installed. So we might want to have a way of essentially allowing an administrator of a site to, if you like, bless the points that have been contributed for their site and just mark them all as officially approved. Or we might want to take some other approach. But we need some way of deciding how we're going to merge the user-contributed data with the official data points. So that's another thing we're going to have to do. Another point here is that as Mark hinted, the Apple and the Android apps submit data in a slightly different way because they have different data. So the Android app has a much richer data. It can also tell that it's actually really associated to an eduroam access point, which the iOS app can't do. So that's one difference. I think what would be useful is if we could define some extensible message format for the reporting of these data points that are being collected, so that can be sent to whatever the collection point is, and then allow that to also be used potentially for other applications as well, or monitoring nodes. There was an implication with the first talk of actually testing the infrastructure, so potentially you could use that message format for a monitoring infrastructure as well. It needn't be users out there, it could be monitoring points that you have around the network. And the last point here is that's all very well for contributing points and building up a database or distributed database of where these points are, where the coverage actually is. But then we might have situations where those points go away or the access points get moved, or we have a conference like this. I don't know whether eduroam is here permanently, but it's quite possible that come Friday, eduroam will disappear, but people have contributed a load of points saying there's eduroam here. Someone flies in on Monday, rushes to this site to get free wireless, and then finds there's nothing here and probably moan to Stefan or something like that as a result. So we need to consider the validity of the data over time and whether it's expired after a certain period of time. And the fourth issue here is trust. Given that we now have a system where people can contribute points as they go around to build this coverage map, it's sort of crowdsourced coverage, there will inevitably be the odd person out there that will find it fun just to go and press, yes, I have eduroam here, wherever they happen to be, just to muck up the system. So we really need ideally need some kind of trust infrastructure there, whereby you can either recognize the device, having seen that it's contributed a lot of good points, and therefore give higher weight to the additional points that it's contributing, or maybe have something within the app, which is what we have at the moment, where you can move a slider so that the more people, the more unique devices that say, yes, there's eduroam here, the more you trust the point. So at the moment, you can just move a slider, you can set it right down low so that even if just one person has contributed a point, you will see it on the map, but you could move it so that you require a certain number of extra people to have submitted it. So that's a very, very, very simplistic model, but I think it's something that also needs to be included with this here. And the point is, if you can have a slide that just says, show the points if just one person's contributed, then that's good from a user interface point of view, because if you then go around and you're the first person at a location and you contribute all those points, you can at least see all those points and know that they've been put into the system. So that's an important feedback issue there as well. So those are several sort of design issues that we need to think about if we're going to take this crowdsourcing model further. The other quite interesting point of this as well is once you've gathered all this coverage data, how do we present it to the users? How do we store it? How do we make it available, whether it's distributed or centralized? So I think one of the things I would like to suggest is that we, as far as possible, make all this information available as open data. Think about the structure of the data we want to make available. We could do it as linked data. We have a lot of information potentially about the universities, the sites, the resources, the buildings, the infrastructure in different universities. This is something that's emerging in the UK. I'm not sure how much it's happening in the rest of Europe, but the open data movement in the UK is certainly getting a lot of traction. And if we do that, we might want to think about devising how we're going to have URIs for that, whether we want to do it under something like id.eduroam.org, for example. That's just an example of the type of things we're doing at Southampton with open data. We have, if I can just pop out of this a moment. So we have here at data.southampton.act.uc, we have a list of all the information we're doing with open data. We have a data catalog for all the different data sets we're making available. And all this data is freely available there. It's everything from the university's expenditure through to where you can buy a cupcake. There's all sorts of fantastic information in that you can just query, download, and anyone can write an app to access that data and present it however they choose to do. So one of the apps that a student, one of our good students, has done from this is this open data map of the Southampton. This is one of our campuses, and this is drawing on all the different data sets that the university has made available and then merging that with other data sets. So, for example, here I said cupcake. If you want to find a cupcake on campus, then you can put in cupcake and search for it, and it highlights all the places you can get a cupcake, and then you can click on those and find out when they're open and what the price is. The more interesting thing as well here, though, is that you've also got integrated with, we're working with the City Council, so we've made their bus information available as well. So I can just click on a bus stop, given the location, and it's telling me when the next bus is coming in to go to various places. And that's all integrated into one map. So there's also information provided by the police on where police stations are, that type of thing as well. So it's a very powerful thing, and I think what I would argue is that if we can make all the eduroam coverage data available the same way, then this can include the locations of where eduroam happens to be in the city, in addition to things like this, which is a community wireless node on the campus as well. So just going back, where's the PowerPoint gone? So that's something that I think, that's an approach I think we should take from making the open data available. Lots of other people in the UK are following this model. So we have the Data.gov UK, we have the police making crime data available, the Ordnance Survey making map data available, etc., etc. Ooh. Okay, so I think this is the penultimate slide. What can we do if we take this approach, we gather the data, we gather the coverage data, we make it available openly using these common formats that we're using for other things? I think there's two things. One is to be able to build new apps that make good use of this coverage data. So anyone, if we publish it openly, can write an app like the one I just showed you there. It could be a student, could be a member of staff, could be someone at eduroam HQ to show where the coverage is. But we could also expand the social networking side of this as well. So we could have, a lot of you may be familiar with Foursquare, where you can check in when you visit locations, encourage people to map things out by giving them sort of achievement points and rewards, and almost make it like playing a game to go and map out where the coverage is. You get bonus points if you check in a new point, or if you've visited your 5th country with eduroam, whatever it happens to be. Finally, just some credits for the people that did this work. The iPhone app was done by a guy called Ashley Browning for his final year project, which was 20% of his degree. And the Android app was done by 3 guys who did this in 8 weeks as a group design project. So they just did the development in 8 weeks between them. So that's it. So we've got 4 or 5 interesting questions. I'll be very interested in any feedback on that in terms of the design issues, whether we want to push this information out as open data, and any other thoughts anyone has on this.
Okay, so let's thank Mark and Tim. And we have time for 1, 2, or 3 questions, depending on how long they are.
Yes, hello, Philip Hans at eduroam US. So the curse of wireless is that no matter what happens, it's always the wireless that gets blamed. Whether you don't have IP connectivity or anything like that, it's always wireless. So in this particular case, it's eduroam. So one thing that I think would be really interesting to see in the companion would be a qualitative approach. Like, is it natted? How is when your average throughput? Having a built-in Nessus in the companion that would test layer 3, because we are really at layer 2 here.
Yeah, so we actually, strange you saying that, we did another project with Janet to do a tool just like that, actually. We haven't integrated that into the companion, but it's something that is a very good point that could be built into that, or it could be a separate app that just well, maybe Mark wants to speak about this, since the general idea was that wherever you were, whether it's on a laptop or a mobile device, you could run that tool to give you an idea of the quality of the network that you're on, and what sort of services that Janet provides would run at a good enough quality from wherever you are, whether it was a hotel room, a conference, whatever it happened to be. but that's not been released or taken forward as yet.
Yeah. I can sneak to this microphone. Tim's quite right. Again, with his students group, we developed an application to do this. You may also have seen that our colleagues in Australia at ARNet have developed a system that does exactly that, web-based. I would say the Australian one has an absolutely superb interface, but a limited set of tests of the network qualities. The co-developed one with Southampton has a really well-developed set of tests, but we didn't feel we'd nailed the interface well enough to release it. There were some usability issues that sort of traffic lights weren't quite fixing. So it's a back burner project for us. I don't think we'd considered before integrating that functionality into the companion, and that's certainly a possibility. I think we're at the point with these two apps that we need to get some professional coding on board, integrate the two back-end services so that it's a common platform to develop going forward, and then we can look at feature sets and expanding capabilities if the demand sustains and people are really finding it useful.
Okay, one quick question.
Well, it may be one bigger question, actually. Do you plan to develop or integrate it with some kind of debugging tools? Because what many users are experiencing is there are some problems often with with eduroam, namely authentication problems, and there is for them no way to figure out what's wrong. Where a kind of finger pointing tool, who they should contact, except for calling their home administrator, which is quite expensive when you're abroad, when you're in completely different time zone. So do you plan to do something in this direction? And talking about the open approach, do you think about integrating with OpenStreetMaps instead of Google?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point as well. The students, obviously, that were developing that had limited time, so they just took the relatively easy option, but that's a fair point. In terms of the, and it was the last of the 4 questions that Mark had, is what do you do when you've got a problem? We had, strange you should ask that, I had a final year student this year that's done some major steps towards a test suite for a radius infrastructure, both doing the tests over the wireless with the ePool test, but also the radius test as well. And the idea there is that it's almost like the old multicast beacon type of approach. You just would be able to hand out from Janet a box to a site, it could deploy it at the site, and it would just do a big matrix of what works to what between all the different sites. So Janet HQ could just sit there and go, ooh, nice big green matrix, and be happy. Or an administrator at a site could see where the red lights were in terms of peerings with other sites or local authentication. So that's something that's just been finished now. Whether that goes forward, I think Janet are going to just run a small number of tests with that, but that could be something that helps with that question. It's not the complete answer, but it's a part of that equation, I think.
Wow, there's a wealth of ideas in this room. It's really sad, but we have to move on now. So if you have more questions to discuss, please approach these two gentlemen. Okay, a short comment from Miro. Short.
Very short, in a way. Can you hear me, or I should shout? The data from the database, the data companion is using, are openly available. So if there is somebody in this group, in this room, or wider, who wants to do the OpenStreetMap, let me know. So data are there. I mean, the guys are using it, a part of it. So, yeah.
Yes, so that's a fantastic point. And the point of making the coverage data available as open data is that anyone can then write an app to do what the heck they like with it. And so they can do just that, yeah.
One sentence. Just to say that the app wouldn't exist if not for the work Miro and his team do in collating this information and publishing it freely for us. So that was the original inspiration. And A final comment about this community: as I sat down from my part of the talk, my phone buzzed, and at least one person has registered to do a translation for us. So thank you very much.
Okay. So now let's move on to our third speaker. That's Maurice van den Akker from SurfNet. He's been involved with eduroam a long time. He is still, but he has also moved in another project into the 3G and LTE area. And he actually suggests that maybe why don't we combine these two technologies just in case someone goes to a location where you don't have eduroam, which happens to be the majority of landfill around. So that is actually something he's now going to talk about, combining LTE and eduroam. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the scenery is Dutch scenery, not an Iceland scenery, but it shows that the Dutch people and the Iceland people have something in common. That's love for ice, I guess. But that's not my topic. As Stefan said, I want to speak to you about the 4G and eduroam combination on behalf of the wireless team of SurfNet. And I prepared a talk which I split it in 3 parts. A little time I will spend about the trends, wireless trends in the Netherlands that you probably will recognize from your own country. Second part is where I will explain how we think that 4G will be just an access network like eduroam, and how we will test that in practice in a pilot. What we have achieved until this far. First, look at our mission for SurfNet. Why are we doing this? Well, we've always said that we want to have researchers, instructors, and students work simply and effectively together with the aid of ICT. But of course, when everybody has this ICT in a mobile sphere, it should be that as well. So that's why we thought about moving into the mobile part. And especially when you look at eduroam, and this is a graph showing non-local eduroam users in the Netherlands, so the people who go to other campuses to log in. And you see since, 1 year and a half, exponentially growth in the use of eduroam, about 200,000 users per month. And that's really growing, of course, in the last months, but they are not in the graph here. Also, we're working on the eduroam coverage in the Netherlands. Our institutes, which we connect to the SurfNet network, a lot of them are already connected. But we're thinking about expanding the coverage of eduroam, and therefore we are talking to parties who are responsible for the primary and secondary schools, libraries, also municipalities, towns, to make sure that the coverage of eduroam can be like this, and then the eduroam companion app is absolutely necessary to have users find their way through. So that's the idea in the coming years for eduroam coverage. But there's also another trend in the Netherlands, and also in your countries, of course, and that's the cellular trend. And you can see in this graphs the trend that the number of calls, the voice actually using GSM, is dropping, and also the number of text SMS services is dropping. But there's one growing, and that's the red one, and that's the data. No surprising, of course. But how are they going to cope with that? First of all, until there was no 4G, so the 1, 2, and 3G, all the traffic they had was based on voice, or actually circuit switched networks. But now finally we have available in technology the 4G. And 4G is actually the first network based on data. And that's for telecom providers, of course, a nice opportunity to have those growing data drafts to have that coped with. And you can see here that the 4G is evaluated from actually 2G, of course, but you see that there's really a lot of technologies in 2, 3, and 3G. And now you see that LTE, the 4G, is actually, how can you say, not that complicated anymore. So that means that if you want to make use of those technologies for other things, to, for example, what I will talk about later, to combine it with eduroam, that can be done much more easier than with the other technologies. But there's also a problem with LTE. If we had on the 1G, we had quite large cell phones, and 2G, well, okay, it went smaller. 3G, then we would have nice smartphones, and they could be connected everywhere in the world. With 4G, there's a problem, because you need kind of a hedgehog with a lot of antennas to be online everywhere in the world. And that's because if you look at the LTE frequencies, which are assigned through the local authorities in the world, you see that a lot of different frequencies are used for LTE, and that will make it a lot more complicated to roam from one country to another. Now, for example, the iPad, there's a lot of fuss about it because they say iPad 4G, but it only works in a specific frequency range in the United States, except, especially, I believe, only with AT&T for a specific iPad model. So that means that, yeah, for every country you need specific devices, and that's of course not what you want. So take a look at the LTE speeds. If you compare it with 3G, then you see that if you look at the download speeds, it goes from 2 or 3 megabit per second to about 10 megabit per second for the winner here. And the upload speeds are also dramatically increasing. The top speed you can get with LTE, they say it's about 150 megabits per second. But yeah, with LTE Advanced, that's the next step. It will be even much more. But if you share, of course, the medium, then it will be around this, which is currently measured in the United States. So that means actually that it's not the same as Wi-Fi, but it's coming more close, and that means it could be opportunity. Well, LTE, it's worldwide available in a number of countries. The red ones are trials, which are committed right now, but the blue ones are operational networks. In the Netherlands, we don't have yet a commercial LTE deployment until 1 week ago. I guess we were still ice skating. But now we're getting somewhere, and that's where we, from SurfNet, of course, want to do something with that. Together with Mark and also with Stefan, we conducted a study within Giant, the mobile feasibility study, and it's, I think, almost ready, the first part of it, the study. And this is a graph taken from that study, and you see that in Europe, well, most of the countries, Iceland not, but most of the countries prepare for a 4G launch or already have it. In the northern countries, it's already a long time operational, and I believe Sweden was already testing with LTE Advanced. So there's good progress in that in our region, but not everywhere. Looking again at the eduroam part, it would be nice to have like Stefan said, the part where eduroam is not ready available. It would be nice to have connectivity as well, and the best would be if if you had it without thinking on which network you are. That would be the greatest thing. Then we from SurfNet would have the idea that you would be everywhere, always online, and the cooperation between teachers and students would be go everywhere virtually. So that's the idea which we have from the mobile team. If you can combine eduroam of 4G, that's the greatest thing to have. Also, the providers are thinking about what to do with Wi-Fi, so from others' perspective, and from a Cisco study shows that in a few years they expect that mobile network operators will offload about 22% of their traffic to Wi-Fi networks. So the interest is also from the other side. But what can we do as an NRN? And we thought about it a long time, and there's a lot of scenarios, which you can see here, the roles for an NRN to do so. For example, you can think about your own spectrum and setting up your own cells, and a lot of ideas there. But the main thing is that as an NRN, you want to encourage the market. You want to make sure that the market is doing what your customers want, actually. And for SurfNet, we decided to have an innovator role and make use of the operator spectrum to make sure that what's the bottom line here, the wireless integration part, can be obtained. And that will be a part where the SurfNet and the institutes deliver the eduroam wireless LAN, and the operator with its own, of the operators with its own spectrum can put the 4G network. And that brings us down to this simple view. A campus network using Home and LTE as an access network, and then throughout the SurfNet network connected to the internet. And the challenge is, not only technical-wise, but also financially-wise, it should be seamless roaming, should be possible. So what's the advantage? Like I said, allowing students to cooperate everywhere, but also using the SurfNet network or the NRN network, a transparent wireless internet access. You have trusted, carefree, and safe connectivity. The technology to use is actually agnostic. It doesn't matter whether it's Wi-Fi or 4G or 3G. Actually, it doesn't matter as long as you are connected. Also, with this with this idea, you can more easily integrate with campus services like unified communications. It's also a good basis for cloud services and federative service, because you have the authentication part already in place. And yeah, it's also an opportunity to gather demand for optimum LTE price-quality ratio. And that's, of course, interesting to get the price down for our community. So how does it work? How's the building blocks? Look at eduroam first. This is how eduroam schematically works, of course. If you are at the visiting institute, you have an internet connection, or you're at the home institute, you're directly connected to the LAN of the home institute. You can connect the local services over there and also to the internet. So how can we do this with 4G? There are two flavors. The first is generic. That's like being at the visiting institute. You have a direct access to the internet via the NRN. And the second flavor is the institutional flavor. And then you have a direct connection to your home institute, to the local area network over there. And from there you can reach, well, or the local services or the internet again. So that are the two flavors we thought of. Institutional traffic can be easily established using a light path, for example. And then you need a tunnel from LTE to the NRN network, and from there a light path to the institute. Generic traffic, that means that the LTE network will be connected to the NRN network, and from there directly routed through the internet. You can compare the features, which is done in this table. And you can see that institutional traffic has the advantage of that the traffic can be regarded locally. For both of the features, secure access based on eduroam credentials counts, as well as internet access through the NRN. Also, an IP address from the institute is possible, and yeah, if you want to have really unified communication integration, you need the institutional traffic option. Also, if you route all the traffic through your NRN, you can monitor it easily, and you can use it to measure the traffic. And if you do a gathering of demand, you can see whether this can lead to price decrease, because you if there is much more traffic going through your network, why not bargaining again to the telecom providers asking for lower tariffs? So that's the idea. Of course, we want to test this in practice, and therefore we started a partnership with the Dutch telecom provider KPN. That's one of the largest telecom providers in the Netherlands. And they were willing with us to start a 4G trial. And within this trial, there are two components. The first one is to see whether there's an added value of 4G in education and research, just plain 4G. And the second part is to see what the added value is of 4G combined with eduroam in education and research. We do this together with the Universal Medical Centrum in Utrecht, the university and the Hogeschool of Utrecht. 3 partners located in the same area in Utrecht, and they were very eager to help us with this trial. So what did we do, or actually what did KPN do? KPN installed 4 transmitters in the campus of Utrecht. And the yellow part is where normally the coverage should also reach inside the buildings. However, it's a 2.6 gigahertz frequency, and that means that if the buildings have kind of coatings on the windows or have too big concrete walls, you cannot get inside the building. And so that could be a problem, and we try to cover that within the pilot. Come back to that later. So 20 square kilometers is covered with these 4 antennas, and we will get also antenna indoor at SurfNet to do some testing over there with IPv6, for example. When we announced the cooperation with KPN and the 4G pilot, there was a lot of media attention for that. People really love to write about it and love to react on it. So it really lives in the Netherlands, so that's good to see. And we defined, of course, our goals. And one of them is, like I said, building and sharing knowledge for the 2.6 gigahertz LTE frequency, see what's the added value in education and research. We want to develop a technical architecture and a test environment for the integration with eduroam. And we want to also encourage the development of mobile applications, which can be fully used LTE and Wi-Fi, of course. But also important is that we want to get input to have a tender later, maybe next year. And this tender will make sure that we can demand this service from operators. So that's important, and for that we have to get input, of course, and the trial is important for us to get this input. The questions we will address, like I said, added value, how does it stimulate the new working and learning, which application can be used now that couldn't be used before, is 4G service comparable with eduroam service, or is it still other? Lack of speed, or is it not responsive enough? That kind of questions. IPv6 on 4G is, of course, very interesting for us. How do you do access with the smart card? All that kind of questions we will address. And most important, how can we provide seamless roaming between 4G and eduroam? So we will look at cows, actually, with the 4G trial, and that is because 2.6 gigahertz is great for outside. And that means that, that we look for trials outside the buildings, also because outside the buildings is no Wi-Fi, or not always Wi-Fi, and inside the building is. And the veterinary faculty of the University of Utrecht It's a very professional faculty who get horses from all over Europe, the race horses, and they treat them, and also cows with all kinds of diseases, they treat them. And they really want to use this trial to see whether they can they can enhance their educational process. And the idea is that there's a supervision, and it can be done with video two ways. So that means that the one who is learning to become a veterinary medical doctor, that he goes to the in fact, to the beasts in the wilderness, and there's not much wilderness in the Netherlands, but to the farm, okay. And from there on, the instructor can see it from a distance how it works, and he or she can access all the available data which is necessary to treat this animal. Also, the hogeschool has an idea about journalism. So think about outside, and something happens on the campus, and need to report from different locations. All that kinds of ideas have come up. And the medical hospital in Utrecht had that idea because they could not see statuses remote, and just by putting on a camera on the status part and bring the device throughout the emergency room, for example, or the intensive care, they can still monitor their patients. So that's the idea about that. Also web lectures, of course, and they have a distributed antenna system within their buildings, and they want to see whether it's possible to have 4G and eduroam combined there. So what's the status? Last week we had the LTE service up and running. KPN made it possible, and the smartphones from LG, which will happily engage in our project, we will receive this week, and then we can start a trial in the first week of June. And in the second half of this year, we will start the other pilots with the medical center and with the hogeschool. And in 2013, KPN will make another campus, of at least one other campus in 4G available. And we actually, this year, we try to have another operator and another campus to make sure that the ideas we have not only are working with one provider, but also with another. So that's, and it seems to go well. So back to the building blocks. How do we make this possible in the pilot? First of all, we need to configure APNs in the mobile part, in the LTE part. These APNs, same like VPN, need to be configured for each institute. Then we will connect the LTE network to the SurfNet network in Amsterdam, most preferably using Netherlight. And from there we will translate the different APNs to the light paths to the institute. Or if it is just generic traffic, we will route it through the internet, through a separate pipe. So that's in fact how we will do implement this service in the trial. But like I said, it's a trial, and the final way how we would like to do it is of course work in progress. But this is how we can do it with the current equipment. Also, the authentication is something to be worked out, and we think about the following way. First of all, your device seeks access to the network. That will be done using your SIM card, of course. And next to that, the device will, actually, the device needs to seek access to the APN. And therefore, the eduroam credentials are used. The infrastructure of the operator will forward it to the radius proxy of SurfNet. Radius proxy of SurfNet forwards it to the institute, and they will not authenticate but authorizate this user to go to that APN. So that's the role of the institute in this part, and that differs a bit from eduroam, I believe. But also work in progress. So conclusions, I think there's a role for NRNs in 4G to enable learning and researching everywhere, next to eduroam, of course. Operators seem interested because they also think there's a market for Wi-Fi offloading techniques. There's a real opportunity to cooperate. 4G and LTE can be a complementary access network for campuses next to eduroam. But the roaming has to be as seamless as possible. And also a gathering of demand for this 4G eduroam services will lead, I think, to a transparent, safe, accessible wireless internet, what we, of course, all want. I want to finish with that, and I hope we can all cooperate together, also in the DANT community, to make this kind of service widely available. And thank you for your attention.
So, a few quick questions maybe. There we have two.
I understand the value add in the service for Wi-Fi offloading for operators, but I would like to understand what other incentives do you give operators to want to work together with you to give 4G connectivity to students? In our case, the operators in my country find it very difficult to understand why they should not sell this to students and work with the NRN and give them a service.
The main reason for operators to cooperate with us is because actually there are three reasons. Most importantly is that they should have something with the educational community. So they must think about the new learning and the new working area, and they have to have some strategy for that to be able to cooperate with us. Second part is that they want to learn the technology, how to do with the Wi-Fi part, the Wi-Fi offloading part. But I think most important part is that if we can together have some kind of tender and make sure that there are a lot of universities cooperate together to buy this service actually, that it's also in interest for operators to come with that.
Hi. So my question is relating to authentication. So the diagram you showed was all about using the authentication coming from the 4G network and authenticating that within the eduroam system. Eduroam admins sitting watching logs sometimes notice these requests with a username and a realm that is seems to be generated from within the mobile using the SIM and the name of the network or the number related to the network and that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Is there anything interesting that you can do with that? I understand it uses probably EAP SIM or something like that, mm-hmm. To actually use the credentials from the phone on a Wi-Fi eduroam network for authentication. Or does that require getting access to keys and things that only the operator has?
For the other way around, you mean that you
yes.
authorize at eduroam with the user credentials stored in the SIM card? Yeah, that's a good possibility, of course, to do the opposite and to gain seamless roaming. But we have to look. I cannot look into the future, of course, but we have to find a way to have that authentication process similar as possible. So it's a good remark.
Yeah, let me just add, it's complicated. So it would work in principle, but we don't currently support that in eduroam. It is something that can be made to work under certain circumstances, though. So that basically concludes this talk, so thanks again.